Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Katie Johns, and I am the Managing Editor of Stormwater Solutions. On behalf of SWS, the sponsor of today's webinar, AQUALIS, I would like to welcome you to today's presentation titled, Extending the Life Cycle of Your Stormwater System, How Preventative Maintenance Can Save in Costly Repairs. Local governments and commercial property owners face an unprecedented period when it comes to budget cuts and resource allocation for stormwater management during a global pandemic. When major rehabs and repairs may not be in the budget for property owners, this webinar will present solutions that can extend the life cycle of your stormwater control measures. Aging infrastructure continues to strain stormwater assets with unexpected repair costs and impending future needs of significant rehabilitation. We'll address common failures that can be avoided with simple solutions that require minimal investment but will keep expensive repairs at bay for some time. Innovative solutions are emerging in the stormwater industry. We will discuss technology advancements during the webinar that can aid in allocating appropriate retrofit costs to aging infrastructure and alerting you to potential repairs before a failure occurs. Planning is essential to stormwater, and with the proper plan solutions, you can save in costly emergency costs with a few simple methods. Learning objectives for today include addressing common aging infrastructure failures and how preventative solutions can reduce emergency repairs, review how universal design flaws reduce the overall life cycle of your SCMs, and the importance of partnering with the stormwater management team during design will prevent failures in the future. Learn how emerging technology is providing new solutions to identify stormwater assets failures before they occur, reducing overall repair costs. We're going to get started in just a couple of minutes, but first a little housekeeping. You will notice on your viewer that you have the ability to ask questions. We encourage you to do so, and we'll try to answer as many as we can at the end of the presentation based on time availability. Any questions we do not get to, we will answer online. Today's presenter is Jeff Urban, National Business Development Manager at AQUALIS. Jeff Urban has over 8 years of water resource management experience working directly with some of the largest retailers and property management groups in the United States to support stormwater and lift station solutions. He worked on facility maintenance projects in the field, large-scale project managed, and worked from an account manager position. His experience provided his perspective on what the project demands and how best to execute for the client with the least disruption. He has experience throughout the country with some unique demands and requirements at local and state levels in relation to stormwater and lift station management. Jeff's educational background is in finance and sustainability, which has proven to be a good match for the water resource industry as facility managers and property owners strive to balance cost, value, compliance, and eco-friendly solutions where possible. I will now turn it over to Jeff to begin the presentation.
Thank you, Katie. Thanks for the nice introduction. And again, on behalf of AQUALIS, we appreciate everybody tuning in today. As Katie mentioned, we know 2020 has been one unique year, to put it lightly. And again, as we were putting together this presentation, we thought how appropriate, to talk about measures and opportunities to extend the life of something. And I think we can all relate to that just in everyday life, but during a pandemic and some challenging times that I'm sure we've all faced over the year. Again, we hope you get some value out of this presentation, and we're going to talk about how maintenance and how AQUALIS stresses the importance of maintenance and inspections on your stormwater system and how that can extend the life. And again, we wish everybody health and safety as we finish up 2020 and head into 2021. And we really appreciate you joining today. So I'm excited. We're coming to you live here from Minnesota, where there's no snow on the ground yet, but and yesterday it happened to be almost 50 degrees, so I'm pretty happy about that. But we are coming up on our daylight issues, and it gets dark here around 5 p.m. in the wintertime. So again, we're happy and hope everybody's healthy and safe, and we're excited for you to join us today. As Katie mentioned, our learning objectives today, really this presentation is divided into about three different parts. We know that the audience here probably varies in their stormwater knowledge. Probably have some experts out there and we probably have a few people listening in that don't have much stormwater experience at all. So kind of the first part of this presentation is we want to touch on some key items, some very common items in a stormwater system pretty much throughout the United States. Talk about some issues that we see on a day-to-day basis, talk about some things you can be on the lookout for and why things are in place and how they work a little bit. We'll get through that, and then we're going to go into some universal design flaws, and really the way I want to say it is some universal design updates, how partnering with a stormwater professional like AQUALIS can help during the design phase, or some housekeeping items around your property that you might be able to keep a lookout for and find some easy solutions for and extend the life of your system. And then finally, we're going to learn about some emerging technology. I think we can all agree we're in the information age, it seems like, and everything's digital. We're going to learn about some real-time data. We're going to learn about some advancements in technology and materials that are helping extend life. So again, we're excited. At the end of the day, I hope you walk away with at least a few points that you can remember. Maybe it's learning a little bit more about the stormwater system or something you can be on the lookout for. We want you to let you know that, hey, there are instances and opportunities for advancement and repairs to extend that life, and then finally just coming away there knowing that there are companies like AQUALIS out there that can help keep you updated, keep you in the know regarding what you have, what's needed, and then help you plan as you're moving forward. And I think that's the key as we think about our customers today. And we'll touch on this again in the presentation, it's making sure we know what we have, and we're planning and not being surprised by anything major. So we're excited to have you. Again, thanks for joining, and let's get into it. So as we think about the life cycle of a stormwater system, I think we always, get asked, a very easy question is, how long is my system going to last? And I had a tax law professor in college that he claimed he knew the answer to every tax law question there was, and the answer is it depends. And it's the same way when we talk about stormwater life cycles. Really, the asset may last, and it varies on a lot of factors, and ultimately it depends on a lot of things. And some of those factors that we've highlighted today is if the site's been properly maintained upon install. Climate, geography, and weather are playing more and more of a factor. Obviously, geography is pretty much set in stone, but we'll get into some facts about climate and weather and how that has a play into your stormwater system. And then the type of stormwater control measure, the SCM, the type of asset also has a lot to do with the life cycle, what we're able to see during inspections and maintenance, and how we're able to extend that life. As we think back, how about, like how stormwater became so important, and it really gets started with the Clean Water Act in 1990. Phase 1, EPA implements, and 10 years later implements Phase 2. Those requirements and important stressors, that we're coming up on 20, 30 years ago that these were online, and everybody started paying more attention to them. And the one thing we want to stress about today in this presentation is, rehabs, retrofits, repairs, they're going to happen. The reality is things fail, sometimes, a lot of times, out of our control. And as you're going to see, getting on a good maintenance and inspection program, we can definitely take measures to extend that life of your system, but also give you the information to make as a property owner, as a property manager, maybe you're a city inspector, maybe you're a city employee, as I think about our audience today. But it's really about the information and giving you the information about the property that you're dealing with to make good informed decisions. And that's what we try to strive for here at AQUALIS, and as we partner with our current customers and things that we're definitely on the lookout for. So we talk about maintaining your investment, and we really think about the 4 pillars of your system, and that cycle there on the right-hand side are basically the 4 main pillars that we try to make sure our customers and the people we're helping are in the know about their stormwater systems. And first of all, if your system is and your property is of a certain size, there's probably an O&M agreement, an operation and maintenance agreement in place with the local jurisdiction, the local municipality. The EPA has pushed that jurisdictional challenge down on the local government agencies, and your property, if it's over an acre in size, is probably under an O&M agreement with the city. So there are definitely certain things that you should be doing with your property and inspecting and keeping in compliance of. So first and foremost, we want to keep your business open. We want to keep your homes open to the residential folks coming in and out. We want to keep the customers safe and coming in throughout the door. And the first step to do that is through compliance. Next one is safety. Obviously, a huge player, very, very much go hand in hand with compliance, but we want those folks coming in and out of the doors to be safe. Your stormwater system can present some challenges and some safety issues if left unchecked. And us, as part of the stormwater and maintenance and inspection crews, they're going to make sure we try to mitigate that before it happens and keep you in the know. And then ultimately function. When things aren't functioning with your stormwater site, and we'll get into some facts later, but the amount of water that falls on some of these properties is really unbelievable. And we don't want that water piling up in parking lots and driveways and getting into homes. So we keep these systems functioning, all the better for our customers and those stakeholders as well. And then finally, just reducing costly repairs as much as possible. There are going to be steps that we'll talk about later in the presentation where we can do small repairs, very cost effective to extend the life of your system or your SCM as needed. More so than anything, I think one of the things our customers tend to want to get rid of the most is those unsurprised large costs. And I'm going to get into a graph on the next slide that kind of talks a little bit more about that. Our job as stormwater professionals is to give our clients, the peace of mind. And unfortunately, we run into some situations where we're called in on the back end, and it's the property and the system has been basically run as a run to fail. It's been out of sight. It's been out of mind. Nobody's been paying attention to it. You can get some life out of your system if that's the case, but as you see on this graph on the right, it's that vertical line going up on the right, rehab replacement costs going straight up that most of our clients, absolutely want to avoid as all possible. And in a perfect world, this graph shows, this stormwater system lasted a pretty long time before that rehab cost went up. But the truth of the matter is that line can shift to the left and get closer in time due to a myriad of factors. And that's what we want to prevent as best as possible. That's what we want to be in the know of and make sure our clients are making good decisions and moving forward. So generally, again, the client partners of ours, we've not met one that loves an unprecedented or a surprise big spend. So us as stormwater professionals, we're going to try to mitigate that as much as possible. As an example of an out-of-sight method, we recently were engaged with a partner of ours up in Wisconsin, a large retailer with a large property, a lot of space. They actually had 3 ponds that really weren't paying attention to. And the growth you see in these right-hand pictures, it wasn't over a long period of time. Just a few years can get things out of compliance. this overgrowth, the issues it caused is definitely making this business out of compliance regarding their O&M agreement, but also runs the risk of creating problems with the asset themselves. A good data point that we, as we talk about stormwater runoff and the volume of water, but the average big box store is about 12 football fields in size. Majority of that property is, non-permeable, like rooftops. It's your parking lots, your sidewalks. And a 1-inch rainstorm on that size of a property will create about 1 million gallons of stormwater runoff. Obviously, we want this runoff and rainwater running to the proper places. Detention ponds, retention ponds we'll learn about here a little bit more, is the ultimate endpoint for these, typically on a property. And you can see in this slide a little before and after. The after picture is what these things we want to look at. This gives us an opportunity to maintain this moving forward. Check for erosion, check for capacity issues, and we just want to ensure that 1 million gallons of rainwater that could land on your property, again, in a reasonable 1-inch rainstorm, is going to the right places and getting out of the way of customer traffic and employee traffic, and keep that system functioning as it should. As we talk about climate and rainstorms, I know that we all probably have our opinion, and I know there's a lot of opinions out there on climate change and global warming, et cetera. But on the right, you have a graph that, basically the facts are, it's hard to deny that extreme weather events are, seem more and more common today. The graph on the right shows the uptick in observed change in very heavy precipitation. A good functioning system is designed to take on these 100-year storms, these 50-year storms. When the engineers and design people design your system, that's what we're planning on. We're planning on the worst case scenario. And in order for your system to handle that, it's got to be in good shape. We got to know that things can flow properly, and getting on a good maintenance and inspection program is a very good step to ensure that. An interesting fact, as I was kind of piecing this together, was, just in the Atlantic in 2020, there were 30 named either hurricanes or tropical storms. And in fact, the National Hurricane Center had to reach into their backup list for names regarding these storms. So it just seems, kind of hand in hand in 2020. When it rains, it pours, but literally. But again, just showing that these extreme weather events are what your stormwater system should be able to handle. And we don't want disruptions to business and to life, and getting on a good maintenance and inspection program can be a key to keep things flowing for sure. Now we want to get into kind of some of our learning objectives. I want to talk about different types of assets that we run into day to day across the country. We've learned a little bit about, the factors and why having a stormwater system is so important and staying on top of it. But these are things you've probably seen, you may not have been paying attention to, maybe on your property, maybe you're very well versed in it, but thought I'd take a step back and kind of just make sure we're all in the know on the types of stormwater control measures you may have on site, and some of the keys to making sure these assets stay in good shape. The very first one, and we're kind of going to work our way backwards from the way the system flows on a property, but ultimately on your property, stormwater is designed to flow somewhere and either be stored or eventually go off your property. And a lot of times this is in the form of a retention pond or detention pond. Retention ponds are basically, the example would be the bottom right picture. They're meant to retain water, always hold water. And again, they're meant to store that water. Eventually that water is either going to infiltrate, or if it reaches certain heights within the system, it's going to eventually outflow off your property. A detention pond is an example on the top picture. It's meant to detain water for a certain amount of time. Again, either eventually flowing off the property or absorbing into the ground and into the water table. eventually. Some of the items that can be an issue with these ponds, excessive overgrowth, trash. We've got to make sure that water is ultimately have room to move in here. Normally, O&M agreements require that vegetation be maintained at certain heights. Again, we want to make sure that capacity is able to handle the stormwater that's eventually going to reach it. Sedimentation and trash are big issues. You know, everything flowing off a commercial property, you can imagine the trash and stuff that gets accumulated. You know, a stormwater professional can make sure things are clear, in compliance, and functioning as normal. Another common asset that we run into a lot throughout the country is a grass swale. And these not only can be grass, but, you know, in the desert Southwest, they look like almost landscaping, just rock and cactus and a few trees, but there's definitely a low point where stormwater is meant to travel. And a grass swale is very similar to a detention pond. They're either meant to hold water for a certain amount of time, eventually infiltrating, but a lot of times they're just meant to convey water from one area to the property to the other. In a grass swale, again, very similar to the detention pond in regards to the maintenance we would do on that, ensuring the vegetation coverage is full and erosion isn't happening, making sure that water can travel to the point of release, or is infiltrating as it should in a timely manner, and ultimately meeting that O&M agreement. I've got one, grass or stormwater swales will always be ingrained in my mind as one of the first things. I got hired 8 or 9 years ago in operations, and I was actually in Arizona, and we got a call from one of our customers that they received an NOV from the municipality that they had a swale that wasn't being maintained and was out of compliance. So we were able to go in there, and this swale out there hadn't been touched in about 10 years. Nobody even knew it was a stormwater swale. They were having problems during heavy rain events with areas of the parking lot flooded. We were able to come in there and spent 2 or 3 days in the 100-degree heat of Arizona summer getting that cleaned out and dodging rattlesnakes, but we were able to get that cleaned out and get that asset functioning properly. And obviously the O&M agreement was met, NOV went away, and reduced any flooding issues that this particular property owner was having. So it was good to get in there and be able to help out. But again, very important to the stormwater systems overall, in a very common piece that we find throughout the country. And as we move kind of from the ultimate outlet of where your stormwater runs off your property, this is the underground systems, the pipes, the underground storage that you might have on your property, are obviously a big piece. It's a very easy piece because they're mostly out of sight for sure. So they can sometimes fall into that out of sight, out of mind status of a property owner or a property manager. But obviously we want that stormwater where it's captured on site and eventually conveyed into the outfalls and the ponds. We need it flowing properly. You can see some example of some pipe damage that we recently helped a customer out with, but we need your systems, and we need these pipes and these conveyance systems underground working properly and moving that water as needed. As part of a stormwater maintenance and inspection program, we're going to make sure that these pipes are clear, water is able to flow. These are very sensitive in regards to safety. When something does happen, when something fails underground, and the possibilities for sinkholes or sections of parking lot failing, a lot of the times these are right under where maybe retail customers are parking in the parking lot. So it's very key that these are inspected, again, not only to meet the O&M agreement, but huge safety issues if things start to go awry with your underground systems. It can be very expensive to repair if they get like that. Then lastly, as we're kind of talking about the system itself and some of the assets that capture stormwater, catch basins are a huge part of what we do on a day in and day out basis, and to me they're very important. You know, I refer to them as kind of the workhorses of your stormwater system. I mean, these are the items that you see on streets everywhere. If you own a property or are responsible for some kind of property, you probably have them on site in your parking lots and along your sidewalks. But these are the first kind of line of defense. You know, when your stormwater hits your ground, they're going to enter the catch basin first. So we got to make sure that these catch basins are in good shape. You can see some examples of trash buildup with everything flowing throughout a parking lot, vegetation buildup here in the lower picture, but everything's flowing towards the parking lot's graded towards your catch basins. So all the sediment, all the sand, all the dirt in your parking lot is headed towards these things, and they take a lot of abuse up in the upper Midwest, as we'll see in the next couple of slides. They have a tendency to fail due to the freeze thaw. And really what I want to show on this, there's some extreme examples in this slide right here about massive sinkholes and catch basin failures. But as we look at the bottom right-hand picture in the slide, it's majority of the time when you see a sinkhole in your parking lot or especially adjacent to one of your catch basins or drop inlets, it's due to the inside of your catch basin failing. You can see the concrete riser inside this catch basin that the frame and grate sit on has failed miserably. That allows water to get in. It allows rushing water in to create a vacuum to suck out some of the sub-base material that's underneath the adjacent parking lot. It gets cast into your pipes, as you see in that picture as well. So a lot of issues going on, posing major safety issues. Very common thing. Sometimes it's unavoidable. Over time, you know, things are going to happen. You got to think about a catch basin, and it's exposed to, you know, heavy equipment traffic, heavy semi traffic. It's exposed to the elements more so than the underground pipes, and so these things take some abuse, and especially in the upper part of the United States where the freeze thaw is so prevalent. You know, we'll get into later in the presentation about some steps we're taking with some of our customers today to extend the life of these, but very important that we get eyes on these assets, make sure they're clear, make sure they can accept the stormwater as needed, but also making sure they're functioning and not posing those safety risks, and again, meeting compliance regarding your O&M agreement. It's a very common asset. We do a lot of work, but a very important piece that I know we've all probably, you know, come across and definitely seen as the just the commonality of these assets is very common throughout the United States. We wanted to show an example of a case study where we had a client reach out to us, and this is kind of that out of mind method, but they basically had a stormwater pond that was not in compliance and got notified that things weren't right, and they hadn't been maintaining it for over 14 years. The picture on the right kind of dictates the condition of the pond as we took a look at it. Tree growth was enabling the sight lines for inspections, the excessive growth of the trees, and potential issues along the slopes. That definitely was out of compliance. We talk about function. The woody vegetation growing along the slopes is makes an easy candidate for erosion washout issues. That was not being in compliance. Reduced repairs, again, not properly maintained for over 14 years. And then finally, compliance. Again, this was notified during an O&M agreement inspection, post safety risk along the fence lines, and we were able to be engaged and help this client out to eventually take care of things and get this site back in back in compliance. Here is a picture of what this pond should look like. This is how it was designed. This was probably how it was turned over to the property owner those 14 years ago. You can notice all the trees have been cleared up. We got good vegetation growth along the banks, and things are easily being able to be maintained and stayed on top of issues. We took care of the safety issues along the fence and potentially the issues of function along the banks, ensuring that this pond has plenty of capacity during a heavy rain event. Again, we reduced the repairs. It did take a repair in this instance, due to lack of maintenance for that period of time, but we were able to get that back in compliance. And just moving forward, they're going to have very few repairs moving forward with this pond as long as they stay on top of the maintenance. And finally, and one of the most important things, we're back in compliance. Nobody can say that we're not. We're meeting the O&M agreement, and obviously being good stewards in the community as well. So kind of, I would call this chapter 2 of our presentation, as we kind of talk about universal design flaws, and really I want to talk about more design updates, a little bit, in regards to flaws as well. We do come across, in all the work we do across the United States, where, we believe that, design could have took another look at, during installation, whether another catch basin or whether another pond is needed. There are instances like that, but it's very rare. The process for a system to be designed and ultimately approved by the city is pretty thorough. So a lot of the times they're making the correct calculations. But I know as we get into the next slide, we'll talk about just little simple things that we come across where, as an example, this top picture in the upper right, we've got an outfall structure in the middle of this pond, to where if the pond reaches a certain height, the water is going to go through this outfall and make sure the water's not headed into the neighborhood or into the business. But when this pond was designed, it didn't have that bridge there. We had to come in there after the fact and put that to make sure we can get that inspected. I mean, the last thing we want to do is, if that outfall structure can't handle the water load, if that pond reaches a certain height, we, as maintenance and inspectors, as stormwater professionals, we want to make sure they can handle that load. And before that bridge was there, we either had to swim out there or use a boat. And believe me, we've done that in the past, but obviously makes for easier inspections and safer inspections having that bridge there. We have a kind of a smaller issue here down the bottom right picture, but that gate right above that riprap pad doesn't allow for the proper equipment to be able to get into this pond and either mow it or spray it, whatever's needed. And just a simple move of that pond, 6-8 feet to the right would allow the proper equipment, allow for much more efficient maintenance and inspections, and ultimately save the customer money. So just little things like that is what we come across, but something we thought we'd point out in this presentation that you could be mindful of as property owners and as property managers and stakeholders in your systems. Universal design flaws, and really this is more of the design update that we want to talk about. Again, thinking back to the Clean Water Act, implementation 20-30 years ago, we've come a long way with what we know in materials and things. And one of the most common things, 20-30 years ago when these systems were being designed are CMPs, corrugated metal pipes, that you see here has some major failure. 20-30 years of running stormwater, steel's going to rust, and eventually the bottom's going to fall out literally. That can cause sinkholes around it, can cause major erosion on certain slopes. So today, with knowing what we know and the advancements in materials, we're able to come in with material using like HDPE or high density polyethylene or concrete pipes Again, just advancements in know-how really gives us an opportunity, and as stormwater professionals, we can be on the lookout for these types of things on your property and making sure things are in compliance. There's also been some great advancements on how you repair these types of issues, either with slip lining pipes and things like that we'll talk about here in a little bit. But just know that there's things out there that may have some age on them, may not be the best design nowadays given the availability of things, and a stormwater professional can definitely help you out with making you aware and making good and informed decisions. So really, as we hit these at the end of this chapter 2, I'll call it, we talk about bad housekeeping, and it's really, as you'll see in the next couple of slides, really simple things that we can talk about that even a local resident or your local property manager that's on site can kind of keep an eye out while they're on site. And again, they're easily recognizable and often remedied with just a conversation with the certain folks on site, with certain stakeholders, whether it's your landscapers or your compactor vendor. But speaking of compactors, here's an example where we get a lot of calls where compactors are leaking. The upper left picture, as you have a compactor and a trail of whatever's inside that compactor is leading down to this drop inlet. It's a situation where these things have hydraulic hoses that can leak or get pinched. We've come to find out that employees will tend to throw anything and everything in these compactors, even though they're told not to. So there's a myriad of liquids and stuff that could impact your stormwater system. As stormwater professionals, we're going to be on the lookout for that. But we're only there typically, most often twice a month, maybe more commonly once a month or once a quarter. So we're not on your property every day, and maybe that property manager of yours can kind of keep an eye out for some of these things. I know from experience, you do not want anything impacting your underground system regarding potential pollutants. That can become a very costly remedy, cleaning things out. So, the more we can do to kind of keep an eye on that. In the case of this compactor, a lot of times just the way they're seated against the building, they're not seated correctly. All it is an extra 5 minutes from maybe the vendor themselves, making sure that's seated correctly. And sometimes the door isn't ratcheted shut all the way. Just a simple tightening of the door can take a lot of these issues away. But it's something that you need to be aware of, and something our crews are definitely looking out for while on site. We've seen a lot of issues with storing things around catch basins, either paint or fuel without the proper BMPs in place. And causing issues for customers. So please be aware, anything, again, that's a potential pollutant, around the catch basin can be a major headache if you're not looking out for it. Some other simple things regarding your stormwater system is, even as we get in kind of the landscaping, we're not picking on landscapers by any means, but, the upper right-hand picture is just, it's fall, leaves are falling. The landscaping is kind of causing, believe it or not, there's a curb inlet underneath those pile of leaves there, and that curb inlet not being able to handle the amount of water it should during a storm could pose issues. So simple things like that, being mindful of what's going on. We've got some grass clippings there's a drop inlet just to the right of that blue car there in the second picture. We don't want any of those grass clippings or anything covering up that drop inlet grate and the amount of water it can take in. Something that we have to deal with up here in Minnesota quite a bit is where the snow is being stored on a commercial property. Sometimes, it's the middle of the night when these guys are plowing, and sometimes they can put it over the wrong catch basin or into a potential sensitive area like a rain garden or one of your low impact development ponds on site, and it causes just havoc, during the melting process causes a lot of stress on rain gardens if you're piling snow in the wrong spot. But again, very simple things that we kind of keep an eye out. And I think as property owners and property managers can keep an eye out as well. And again, often remedied with just a conversation with the folks, doing the work or the stakeholders involved. And lastly, kind of the main point of our presentation, we're going to talk a little bit more about tech advancements. I know I mentioned this in the first part of the presentation about real-time data, and so upgrade in materials as well. So the first thing we want to talk about is a system that we've partnered here with at AQUALIS and helped develop called AquaTrax, and it's really about making data available to the property owners, the property managers, and as us, as stormwater professionals as well, to make informed decisions. The availability of real-time data that can help forecast potential issues and help with planning is invaluable nowadays. And there's systems out there that can help. And again, AquaTrax is something we here at AQUALIS have developed. It's basically a cloud-based network of sensors that can help monitor the health and status of your stormwater control measures on your site, and they can do all this in real time. We're going to see a snapshot of a dashboard that's accessible from your desktop computer or your mobile device. We're excited to be on the forefront of this, and it gets important as we talk about real-time data. In this next slide, here's a shot of your dashboard, but we're going to be monitoring things like water temperature, total outflow, total precipitation, total capacity. And again, to be able to do this in real time, if our sensors pick up capacity issues, if you have underground storage and that underground storage is pretty much full and not draining as it should, we can be alerted right away. And we're monitoring forecasts as well. If we know storms are in the area and tomorrow or the next day, we can get somebody on site, oftentimes with a simple solution of maybe, unclogging one of the outlets to that underground system to get that water flowing out to be able to handle that storm in a day or two. So the real-time data and the way we're headed in the stormwater profession is really exciting. And again, for our clients, it's about making those good, informed decisions and investing, our dollars in the right way, the way they should. So we want to minimize those business and residential disruptions, and part of real-time data can help us with that. Another thing, as we get into possible solutions, is green infrastructure. I'd say green infrastructure has become pretty popular in the stormwater world over the last 10, 15 years. You hear about low impact designs, LID and GREET certified, and things like bioretention ponds, green roofs, rain gardens. This picture here on the right is an example, I believe, of a green roof in a metropolitan area that we handle. A lot of benefits come off. Green roofs can be a key asset in areas where space is limited. It's not feasible to have a pond on your property if you're in downtown Chicago. So these are some steps that we can implement. We can stay on top of the maintenance for you. Having a stormwater professional involved with your system and to maintain and inspect. I will say my experience with rain gardens and green roofs is pretty extensive over the last 7-8 years that I've been dealing with this. Seems like we're always been maintaining and being a part of keeping these in good shape. And the key to these it's very, very important that we keep these systems functioning. We keep as many weeds out as we can. We keep the plants alive, because that's pretty much what's doing the work as far as filtering the stormwater and using up that stormwater. So it's very key that if you have any of these green infrastructure products or low impact designs, that you stay on top of the maintenance in order to keep things in compliance and moving forward. I know I touched on it earlier, but we have a couple of examples of some catch basin fixes that we're doing here on the right. And the advancements in materials that we're seeing today is very exciting. We're partnering with some of our clients now to get rid of some of the concrete risers and things that I pointed out earlier in the presentation about, hey, when these things fail, that's typically causing issues around with sinkholes. Again, we're excited to partner with some of our clients on putting composite risers, and the bottom right hand picture, a frame and grate will go over this. Those composite risers right there, and those are used to get that frame and grate to the grade of the parking lot. And as that's repaved or concrete is put down, knowing the inside of that catch basin is going to be in good shape. The freeze thaw that's so hard on the insides of these catch basins and so important to keep in good shape, are not going to be an issue during with composite risers. So we're excited to be on the forefront of using these. They're pretty much about the same cost as the old school method of using concrete. And so we're excited to see how long these last. I mean, in initial studies and some of the initial studies as we partnered with the suppliers of these is, the lifespan on these particular products are upwards to 50 years. So, a parking lot and the concrete around it will fail long before, the risers inside. But again, if we're reducing potential safety issues and potential, obviously functionality issues, then all the better. So we're excited about advancements in materials. We touched on the HDPE pipe versus the corrugated metal that we talked about before. So again, as stormwater professionals in a maintenance and inspection program, we're going to be on the lookout for potential opportunities here. And again, we're excited to be on the forefront and pass that knowledge and data on to our customers. And really, as we end up here in the last 5 minutes or so, we want to talk about that stormwater expertise. And I know I've touched on it and harped on it throughout the presentation here, but, failures are going to happen. I think a lot about, my stormwater system. I liken it a lot to my car. I've got to get the oil changes. I've got to get new tires every once in a while. Somebody may hit me. I may hit somebody. I mean, things are going to happen. And getting that stormwater provider, the knowledge and the expertise on site is going to help you. We can help mitigate some of that, some of those unexpected costs. If a catch basin is starting to fail on the inside, those typically large failures don't happen overnight. It's a period of time. Those initial cracks and that initial debris in there that may cause issues, we can make sure that we get out of there on the onset. We can patch a crack or beginning failure and get another 2 to 5 years off, of life on that catch basin. And that's kind of here what we're doing in the field every day as we help our clients, with maintaining, again, we're hitting those 4 pillars of safety, compliance, function, and reducing repairs. And so just know that a stormwater maintenance professional can go a long ways. And one of the things that we have here is a case study that kind of talks through that. And we partnered with a client of ours in North Carolina, basically a grocer that had a pretty complicated system, as you'll see on the picture to the right, but they were only doing inspections and no preventative maintenance. And eventually their compliance in their own agreement wasn't met, and they failed an inspection. They engaged us along with their some other not as qualified vendors in regarding repairs, and ultimately engaged with a landscape company to fix, costing them a pretty good amount of money because of, to no fault of probably the landscapers, but because of their lack of, stormwater expertise, even the repair failed inspection, and the customer started getting fined $2,500 a day in totaling $50,000. We're able to come in on the backside and get things in compliance for another, it was a decent repair, and we made sure that we complied with what the municipality and the O&M agreement pointed out. But really the point of all this is under a maintenance program, it would have been about 1/10 of the cost, to make sure obviously the inspections were met and the system was in compliance fully. But again, it's engaging the right people is key. We believe in getting on a good maintenance and inspection program can definitely help, extend the life. Again, meeting the 4 pillars and just saving long-term cost is what we strive to do for our clients for sure. As we wrap up here, we truly believe that preventative measures will extend the life of your stormwater system. That's the best way to do it. Again, I want to highlight that some repairs are going to be inevitable. We can't control climate. We can't control weather, and things are going to happen. Snow plows are going to hit catch basins. It's just unavoidable. But we truly believe that having a preventative maintenance program in place is definitely going to give you an opportunity to extend the life and at least be in the know regarding potential spends, and we can help plan with that. We're going to be able to help you educate on common pollutants and potential problems throughout the system. We can help you understand potential design flaws, some of those housekeeping items that we touched on before. We're definitely, as part of our inspections, going to recognize common failures and monitor those and lead you with good information. Does it need to be repaired now? Can it be pushed off a few years if money's a little tight? And so those are some of the things that we can do for you. And then finally, and almost most importantly, is maintain safety and maintain your O&M agreement. Make sure you're in compliance and keep customers coming in and out of the door and residents being able to move freely without worry. And lastly, as we kind of end up, before I tell you a little bit more about AQUALIS, kind of revisit these graphs again. We've got our run to fail method there on the left. Eventually that excellent condition is going to taper off, and that cost of getting things back is going to skyrocket and go straight up. Again, we're during a maintenance and inspection program, we're going to try to keep that line a little bit more horizontal, as you'll see in the right graph. The excellent condition, it's going to have some peaks and valleys. Things are going to happen. But, the small cost that we're having down there below on the green dotted line is, again, very cost effective. And I think you'd be surprised if you don't have a maintenance and inspection program in place, how cost effective it is. It truly, when you think about the cost to implement one of these systems and build one of these systems, the opportunity to maintain it and the dollars invested is very cost effective. And our goal is to keep that system functioning properly and for a long time. So as we wrap up here, AQUALIS, I have the opportunity to talk to you a little bit more about what we do. We've been in the stormwater and water compliance business for over 20 years. We're nationwide. We are the nationwide leader in post-construction stormwater management and lift station services. We're proud to say that. Our current customer list, retail partners, logistic companies, residential, property management companies, some of the best companies in the world, and we're proud to be a partner of theirs. Stormwater system maintenance, stormwater system repair, inspections, even potential credits that you can get back by doing things properly. Our additional water services, lift station compliance, sometimes go hand in hand with stormwater, whether it's a stormwater lift station or sanitary. But backter and jetting, pipe inspection, emergency response, we do a little bit of it all, and we do it nationwide. So we know that water compliance is not optional. As we think about the Clean Water Act, we think about the 4 pillars of safety, compliance, function, and reducing cost of maintaining your stormwater system. And here at AQUALIS, we offer these services to keep things, again, moving in the right direction, giving you the information to make sound decisions. And we have we encourage you to reach out if you have any stormwater questions at all. I know our website at AQUALISco.com is a good place to start. And as we wrap up here, a little bit more about our qualifications throughout the country. Again, we've got several regional offices and home offices all across the United States, from one coast to the east. Our experts in the field, a lot of them have these certifications that you see on this slide. But what's important, I think, to note as I talk to customers about potential businesses are a lot of our experts in the office have these same qualifications, and they've been in the field, they have the experience. One thing I truly believe how AQUALIS separates themselves is just looking at our relationships with our clientele and in our potential business partners as true partnerships. We'd love to help you out one time, but we'd really love to help you out 100 times, in over 20 years, whether that's just maintaining your system or inspecting your system or any types of repairs. And so we're in it for the long haul. We know that if we can provide you with solutions that are cost effective and to help your business, it's only going to help our business as well. I know as I wrap up here, there's going to be opportunity for questions and answers. One of those very highly qualified individuals on our staff is our Vice President, Jason Abert. He's going to step in and help me answer a few questions here regarding anything you guys might have. And again, I appreciate everybody's opportunity, to tune in today. Hopefully you got something out of this presentation. We're coming to you live again today, so I appreciate everybody hanging in with me and again taking the time to learn more about how a maintenance and inspection program can help. And again, feel free to reach out to any of us for a free consultation or anything you might need. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Katie.
Thank you so much, Jeff, for that presentation. Jeff mentioned we will now take some time to respond to a couple questions from the audience, and we are welcoming another member of the AQUALIS team, Jason Albert. Jason is the Vice President of Delivery for AQUALIS. As the leader of stormwater maintenance for AQUALIS, he is responsible for executing stormwater maintenance, including stormwater inspections and preventative maintenance. He has a bachelor's degree in biological and agricultural engineering with an environmental concentration and 9 years of experience in the water resource management industry. He has worked with some of the largest retailers and property management groups in the U.S. for stormwater management program development and service. Jason has acquired experience throughout the country, meeting unique demands and requirements at the local and state levels concerning stormwater and water resources. So with that, let's ask a question. First, how common are issues related to trash and man-made debris? Few places have TMDLs for trash. In your experience, should this also be designed to address or capture trash?
Thanks, Katie and Jeff. Issues related to trash and debris are very common across all stormwater control measures. Trash and debris management prior to it entering the system is impacted greatly by good housekeeping practices, as Jeff mentioned in his presentation. Those good housekeeping practices of the property owners as well as their vendors. Proprietary technologies for capturing trash prior to or within a system exist and are constantly improving.
Okay, thank you. Another question we have, what process in getting a site set up and maintenance plan?
Yeah, so with the variability of stormwater systems across properties nationwide, AQUALIS's process for identifying the preventative maintenance needs includes partnering with that property owner to review the system design and the system history, to fill in any gaps in information that might be available. An initial inspection by one of our field teams can assist in determining the short-term as well as the long-term needs of the assets. Depending on the location, the regulatory environment, system type, and other factors, maintenance plans can be customized to satisfy the need of an individual location. Often, if a maintenance plan was not executed previously, a one-time non-routine scope might be needed to return the system back to a maintainable state.
Okay, thank you. That does wrap up the time we have today for the Q&A and for this presentation. Any questions we did not get to, we will answer offline. On behalf of Stormwater Solutions, I would like to thank today's webinar sponsor, AQUALIS, and everyone viewing for their participation. This webinar will soon be archived at the same URL you used today, as well as at www.estormwater.com, and will remain available on demand. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Have a great day.